David Shaw and Stanford at the crossroads. Welcome to the Voice of College Football as we break down every schedule in the Power 5 and head out to the Pac-12 to look at the Stanford Cardinal. We know the history. The history has been sketchy and spotty and was down throughout the 2000s. Jim Harbaugh came in, followed by David Shaw, and lifted Stanford to top 5 to 10 finishes in the country. Then the wheels started to come off in 2017, 18, 19 in that range. They went from being a double-digit win program to 8-4 type status for a couple seasons, although they went to the Pac-12 championship game in 2017, down to a 4-8 finish, and then losing their first 2 games in 2020. So 6 consecutive losses for the Cardinal. Things looking down. They looked horrible, atrocious, the latter half of 2019 into 2020. But David Shaw and company turned it around. They had to practice on the road the final month of the season, played all road games, won 4 consecutive to finish at 4-2, and may boast their best offensive line in the last few years because that position has been downgraded in recent campaigns, and also the defense should be much improved with Tanner McKee back at quarterback. Let's look at the Stanford Cardinal and a very difficult schedule concerning Pac-12 standards, especially for 2020. The season starts out with a nice little date against Kansas State. Neutral site, AT&T Stadium, Cowboy Stadium in Texas to take on the Wildcats. Big 12 and the Pac-12 getting together there. That is a pick-em toss-up game. Then Stanford always plays USC early in the season, and they do so again at the Coliseum in week 2. One of the best teams, of course, in the Pac-12. And right now the second highest rated according to the Coaches and AP poll. Then Stanford goes to SEC country to Nashville to take on Vanderbilt. They should be a solid favorite right there against a Vandy team that went 0-10 in 2020. The Pac-12 schedule continues in a tough way. None of these teams are daunting in regards to that Stanford cannot pull off a win, but each game is formidable. There are very few, if any, give me wins in this schedule. Look at this run of UCLA, Oregon, Arizona State in the middle of the season. The first 2 games are at home, then they go on the road to Arizona State. Again, UCLA, Oregon, Arizona State on the road. Difficult draws for Stanford back to back to back. As I went through the schedule, I typically try to find those tough stretches and bracket those and point those out to you. In this one, there's not necessarily a tough stretch because there's typically a down team, a subpar team that breaks up a difficult stretch like Vandy after Kansas State and USC and before UCLA, Oregon, Arizona State. But there are stretches of 6 and 7 games that are almost all difficult, with maybe one game in which Stanford will be a heavy, substantial favorite. Washington State on the road after the Arizona State game, then a bye week for the stretch drive. Washington and Utah back-to-back with the Huskies at home. Washington, one of the favorites in the Pac-12, but keep in mind that Stanford won this game against Washington last season. Again, Utah's the game from the Pac-12 South, and then the stretch drive against Oregon State on the road and Cal before finishing up against Notre Dame at Stanford Stadium. So I can typically point out the wins and losses and say these are the probable wins, these are probable losses, but I'm basically grouping this schedule together. I see Stanford winning 2 of 3 non-conference games. They lose to Notre Dame at home. I think it's a toss-up game against Kansas State. They could lose to Kansas State, be a much better football team at the end of November and beat Notre Dame possibly. And then the other game on the road at Vandy, they need to win that game. There are certain games in the schedule that Stanford cannot trip up and be a bowl-eligible team. They have to beat Oregon State. They have to beat Vanderbilt if they want to go to a bowl game, for sure. They have to win at Washington State. And then they could pick off possibly USC, Oregon, Washington, Utah. They could split those 4 games. That would be an exceptional season if they could split those 4, Utah, USC, Washington, Oregon. And, of course, if they can split against Washington and Oregon, then they've got a shot to possibly contend in that division. A lot of 50-50 toss-up games for the Stanford Cardinal. I'm going to cut it dead even. 6 wins, 6 losses, 4-5 in the Pac-12 for the Cardinal in a difficult 2021 schedule. Your thoughts about Stanford football down below? Keep in mind, when I look up Stanford's schedule, this only happens with a few football teams across America. When I Google Stanford 2021 schedule, Guess what I get? I think I only get this with one other football team, and that's Duke, possibly Northwestern, where it pulls up academic schedules. And I can't even find a football schedule. It pulls up the academic schedules with anybody else. With Arizona State, Ohio State, Kansas State, anybody else, it pulls up the football schedule first and foremost. All the football schedules. But at Stanford, we know why you're there, and you still churn out an excellent football product, or at least did from about 2009 to just a couple of years ago. Well, anyway, your thoughts below on Stanford football right here at the Voice of College Football.